grew up in South San Gabriel, which is unincorporated area of Los Angeles. It was a very poor area. We had dirt streets, no sidewalks. We had no school, no park, no store, no church. We had nothing. A lot of the neighbors that had lived there for a very long time. One of them, her name was Natalie, and she was a Holocaust survivor. Her entire family was pushed into concentration camps during World War II. And growing up in what I referred to, or I thought was the ghetto until I met her, I grew up in a very poor family, and at 7 years old, that was when you had to get out on the streets. You had to beg, borrow, and steal if you wanted to eat. We had to communicate with our neighbors and beg them for food, and sometimes ask if we can pull weeds or mow lawns. I noticed that her house had been overgrown with weeds, and so I had knocked on her door.
It terrified her. She had this panic in her voice. Go away! Get out of here! I'm going to call the police! And I was terrified, and I ran away. It wasn't until later on that, she lived only 3 houses down from me, and so I would see that she is simply terrified, when she would come out of her house to get her groceries or her newspaper, she would quickly shuffle back in. And I realized that it wasn't me, it was kind of the world that she was afraid of. So as time went on, when I would see her passing by in a natural, environment, I would just wave, good morning to her.
So she told me one day to go ahead, and after I spent about 2 or 3 hours pulling weeds, when it came time to pay me, she took the change and rolled it up in toilet paper and threw it out the window.
It probably took about a year before she would actually stop and talk to me, and only then through a window, and so it took probably 2 years before she actually came out of her house and would sit with me on her wooden swing set and talk to me. She was heavy set, always dressed in the same gray dress. Her feet were always swollen. She shuffled when she walked. One of the things I liked about her was her accent. She spoke in this very thick Polish accent, and I would often have to stop her and ask her to repeat a word.
And for years, I didn't know why she was so terrified of people. She had her groceries delivered to her house. Never seen her out of her house for years. After a couple of years of pulling her weeds and cutting her lawn, she started to come out of the house and sit with me in this little bench swing set. And that's when she started to tell me about her life. She was in Poland, I believe, and she told me that she was playing as a little girl. She was playing in the street after school with some of her friends, and they heard a rumble. Then the street started to vibrate. The boys got excited when they seen the tanks come around the corner. The girls, for whatever reason, got scared and ran home. But the boys were excited. They ran to the tanks, and then they seen the infantry coming behind the tanks, and they knew they were afraid, and they also ran home. The Nazis were making announcements for everybody to come out, to bring your valuables. Everybody must come. And her father, the last time that she seen her father, he was standing in a line of men, and a Nazi soldier put a gun to his head and shot him because he was not walking fast enough. They were taken to a ghetto, and she described the ghetto as actually a small city surrounded by a large wall that all the Jews must stay in, and they all had to wear a red star. signifying them being Jewish. There was very little food, there was very little medical care, and extremely violent. It was there that some of the Jews realized that they were in serious trouble, and they started to prey upon each other. So she told me that you think that you live in a ghetto. At that moment, she's talking to me about this. We see Lengus drive by, and Lengus was known at that time, this was 1978, to be one of the hardcore gang members of the Lomas area. And she told me, you think that he is tough, but he's not. If the hand of evilness and darkness were to reach out and touch his heart, like I have seen it in my life, he would run down the street screaming like a maniac. At that moment, I truly understood what she was saying. I mean, this was a woman who was told to pull the teeth out of dead bodies. And when she was told to do that, she urinated on herself. She couldn't do it. They told her if she didn't, they would shoot her. And with shaking hands, the first time she opened a corpse's mouth and pulled out the teeth, or the gold and the silver. And that was her job, because she was agile. She was able to crawl over the bodies quickly. She had small hands, able to manipulate the pliers and get inside the mouth. That's why they selected the children to do this. And it haunted her. She said that she had to just turn her mind off, close her mind out, knowing that she had to do this in order to survive. She spent, I believe, 2 years in the concentration camp. I believe it was Auschwitz. It's the one that starts with an A. I forgot how you say it. It was the main one. She was there for 2 years. And she told me that she stopped befriending people because every time that she would make a friend for moral support, they would be killed the next day. She was there for 2 years and eventually liberated. I believe it was the British that came in and let them know that the war was over. She said that she fell to her knees and cried. And then she said something in Polish, and I asked her what that meant, and she said, "I made it, Papa. I made it." When she would tell me one of her stories, she would often kind of drift off and leave us silent, kind of allowing me to digest what she had said. She very rarely looked me in the eyes. She normally looked down to the ground. And it was always a treat when she would reach out and put her hand on top of mine. And it would let me know that she was lonely. She needed a friend to talk to. I never thought that I would befriend someone that was about 60 years older than I. But every chance that I had after school that I could coax her out of her house, I took. It's funny I remember this because she brought a jar of peanut butter and 2 spoons. And we sat on this the wooden swing set, and we ate the peanut butter together. I grew up in a very violent house in which my mother was very disconnected to me. She cared more about her drugs and about her sex with men, and had really no care and concern for my welfare. I had 21 broken ribs, 3 broken arms, and a fractured skull, all by my mother, all before I hit the age of 11. But Natalie, she provided for me a place that I can go just a couple of doors down almost any day that I wanted to and open up my heart. The advice that she gave to me was more of a motherly advice, understanding of what I was going through at that moment. I would share with her the physical abuse that I was going through on occasion. There was twice that she found me sleeping in her yard early in the morning. I knew that I could go there and I could sleep inside of her yard and I would be safe. Nobody would know I'm there. And there was a couple of mornings that I would be woken up by her foot nudging me. On one occasion, she just threw a blanket on me and went back in the house. She eventually died alone in that house, and she had been dead for several days. Nobody knew that she was dead. The groceries that are left on her doorstep once a week had been there for a couple of days, and her neighbors went to go check on her. After the terror that she went through in that concentration camp and seeing hundreds and hundreds of people killed and seeing thousands of dead bodies, she chose to isolate herself, to totally disconnect from society. She had her groceries delivered to her doorstep. She was my neighbor for approximately 8 years. Never once did I see her out of her property. And I do the same thing now. I'm in prison and I disconnect from the yard. I'm in a building right now with 125 people. I've been here for over a year, and I can name maybe 5 people. When I go out to the yard, I don't look at people in their face. I walk alone. I try to sit at the table and eat alone. I work alone.
She was a sweet, lonely woman, you know, the type that everybody would want to have as a grandmother, as an aunt. You know, I don't remember the last time that her and I spoke, but I've always, throughout these years, wished that I knew that moment was going to happen. But I would have told her, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to sit down next to this kid and share with him.
But she did give me kind of a sanctuary within her own pain. She provided me with a place that I could go and say anything, knowing that it wouldn't push her away. It wouldn't have her look at me any different.
I would want her to know that I appreciated her and that she wasn't alone.
You've been listening to Natalie, an audio tale by California prison inmate Richard Gatica on the Dreamland podcast. Tune in next week for more stories, conversations, and all the rest.